Crossing the Gulf. That's the title for our panel's response to the poetry of Brenda Marie Osby. I would start by asking, who are our living poets of the Gulf? The ones who write from our gulfs of history, language, and experience, from gulfs between the living and the dead, from across borders of accredited knowledge and respect, from across nations, or from loop currents of deep time and space. We think of Jay Wright, Yusef Komunyakaa, Natasha Trethewey. We think of certain poems by Joy Harjo and Sandra Cisneros, and of a number of writers from Mexico's Gulf, and from across the Yucatan Channel in Havana. But this evening, we have a true guide right here with us, who will send us into Gulf, Bayou, and Mississippi waters. This afternoon, the two of us will set our altars of response to open pathways by which we may read all sorts of Gulf crossings via the word altars, built in Brenda Marie Osby's collected and essential poems, All Saints, 1997, and All Souls, 2015. In making curricular and relational offerings of response to All Saints and All Souls, we want to assist a crossing of the Gulf from multiple perspectives, an exchange. We ask, what happens or opens up when readers and our readings come to All Souls from further south, from places where the rites of Todos Santos may be even more vibrant than they are along the Gulf's north shores? I introduce my collaborating partner, Dolores Flores Silva, to speak of what Todos Santos has meant to her own Veracruz community, and of how Mexico's Afro-Creole, indigenous, Catholic base shapes her response to Osby's All Souls. Let's cross the Gulf with Dolores' reading of All Souls, beginning with Peculiar Fascination with the Dead.
Light candles to honor the dead. Set flowers on the altars of the dead, which must be raised in your home. Wear the memory of the dead plainly, so anyone looking will see how the decent do not forget. Speak of the dead as though you thought they might hear from the adjoining room. Pray for the dead. Go into the tomb cities along Basin, Canal Boulevard, Valence, and Esplanade. Carry flowering plants, bits of brown paper, smooth stones, the burdens of what time you have left to honor the dead as they ought to be honored. Live among your dead, whom you have every right to love. The Day of the Dead, or the Souls in Mexico, is one of my country's most powerful traditions. Classes and work are stopped to give everyone the chance to go back home to celebrate and honor the deceased during the first days of November. November 1st is dedicated to the souls of children and the second to the souls of the adults. People from the mountains, a week before the celebration, come with the arrival of colder weather to the cities to sell what they have made during the year to get ready and receive the souls with honor and love. Big and small baskets for offerings, little toys made out of brown and black clay, calaveras and pots fill the market for Todos Santos. Traditional mole, tamales, and rice recipes are prepared in households to serve on the table for the celebration. Veracruz, one of the states in Mexico with a large indigenous population and an enduring African cultural history, has guarded the tradition of respect for bonds between the living and the dead, passing it across the generations. Days before the celebration, there are contests in elementary schools, with children setting altars filled with flowers, candles, incense, and food. The prize winners set their altars downtown so that everybody can see their creative respect for the souls of our ancestors. Colleges and schools from across the state sent students to compete in the capital of Jalapa, dressing as skeletal Catrinas with different materials for the governor's award of top prizes. We must recognize, of course, that in the world of Osby's All Souls, the skeletal named Katrina carries a very different set of memories and exposures of gulfs between Gulf peoples and their governments. Back home in Mexico, we face our own Gulf storms and cross-border economic and political threats. Due to the forces of globalization from El Norte, Halloween is increasingly celebrated, but efforts to preserve our traditions help to keep Mexicans tied together, sharing the pride of ties to Aztec civilization. ties to an indigenous Mexico profundo in celebrations that unite the people with their roots. Brenda Marie Osby's poetry collections remind me of our own gatherings in cemeteries, turned to big fiestas where we encounter people who haven't seen for a long time. We jarochos, who travel back with our sugar, calaveras, copal, and grave adornments, are not so different from Louisianans who light candles for their dead, or who fall into second-line steps in a jazz funeral. All along the Gulf, we, whether we are Cubans, celebrating a misa for dead santeros, Mexicans celebrating Todos Santos, or readers of Osby's All Saints and All Souls, believe the souls die only when we no longer bring flowers, song, and embodied soul to our memory of the dead.
From New Orleans and Mobile to Havana, Veracruz, and Campeche, it may be the ritual season of the dead, along with Carnival, that pulls this Catholic, indigenous Afro-Creole Gulf into formation, that restores its hold on memory and refuels what Beyonce recently called its hot sauce in the bag swag. It's Tabasco, that Mexican Gulf state we get our peppers from. Osby tends fiercely to the tenuous, repeating rites that keep our own Creole city in material and spiritual formation. This is the first thing that her two collections, All Saints and All Souls, insist upon. The rites of those days of November 1st and November 2nd, when the gulf between the living and the dead is most readily traversed, she seems to have traversed most every single day over the course of a career. From the port city of our Gulf relations, All Souls brings voices out of the Gulf, makes lives, words, practice matter, perhaps especially in relation to the Holy Mother, Mater Dolorosa, Our Lady of Sorrows. In Litany of Our Lady, Osby rematerializes lives that never received proper respects, lives that perhaps never mattered, save for the ways folk in a place like New Orleans or Veracruz make lives matter through how we live, speak, and remember.
Our Lady of Sorrows and Sadnesses, of intolerable agonies tolerated daily, of drifters, grifters, scrappers, and scrapers, Our Lady of dudes and dicks and pricks, of petty thieves and of whoremongers, of pissed-swell gutters and dives, and the grimed over windows naughty-haired children peer through, Our Lady of boys shut down in the dark.
Our Lady of Sorrows brings together many different feminine figurations of Gulf grief and remembering. La Llorona, Malinche, the Virgin Morena, Guadalupe Tonantzin, and the Spanish tinge of wailing from the blues-fed birthplace of jazz. She presides over the cast-off and thrown away from across the border of what matters. Whether she comes in the form of the Seven Sisters or the Vodou Loa Ezuli or the Black Choctaw Minikanju, Our Lady of Sorrows materializes constantly in Osby's All Souls and All Saints. In Dom Tom Primer, a response to French colonial, really Euro legacies and taxonomies, Osby amplifies the snarl of response we've heard in Natasha Trethewey's Thrall. In the Western world's colonial Souths, as Osby's master speaker explains, quote, there is a certain kind of woman who offers herself like an Eden, and so one does whatever one wants with her. End of quote. The exotic fruits offered up, quote, don't really have names, so we have to name them. End of quote.
And because we're humanitarians, we begin civilizing them. And because we're interested in their good, we have to humanize them. And to really humanize them, we have to study them, anthropologize them. And to really study them, and because we're such humanitarians, we have to fuck them. Yes, to really humanize them, a good fucking is what's needed.
It doesn't get more explicit than this. In the wails and profanity of our music, in Mexican Costa paintings engaged by Trethewey, in Jefferson's racial algebra, In Octavio Paz's recognition that his compatriots are blocked from self-apprehension by the notion of being bastard children of La Chingada, the fucked. In this world, one must be a chingon, the fucker, a Big Donald, a Trump, or else one is a loser, stuck on the other side of the wall, reduced to meat, carne, consumer carnage. Maybe it's this more than anything else that our rights of the dead resist, the reduction to being mere meat, stripped to the bone, fucked and forgot. What we've thought we've digested gets churned up, spat out, and thrown up via password songs and rites of the Gulf undead, returned as toxicity and vibrant matter as we make America great and start the grind again.